Welcome back to another riveting episode of the DPT to CEO show. I'm so excited to have you guys here listening, and I'm really excited to have back, I suppose we could call you a veteran participant at this point. Kristen is back for her second episode. For those of you who have been around for a while, you might have listened to Kristen's first episode on this podcast, I think a couple of years ago, but we're really excited to dive into all the updates and things that have changed over the past couple of years for both of us, and just, keep spitting out all the advice and things that we've learned. Without further ado, Kristen, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Must have been like 2021, maybe 2020 when I was on last time.
Yeah, like a long time ago. It feels like we were like little babies.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like I was like a kid back then.
Yeah, and like so much has changed, so much has stayed the same, but it's always good to kind of talk things out. So, Kristen, if you don't mind telling us a little bit more about your background and maybe kind of update us on how the past couple of years have been for you overall and in business.
Yeah, so I am a physical therapist like Morgan. I, like probably a lot of people on here, was very burnt out by the field, so I decided to start my own thing. I started more with some cash-based as well as online, and it transitioned into, I guess you did just ask me for my background, but hey, like, I don't know, but transitioned to mainly online. And then that transitioned into also helping clinicians, not even part of really the plan, but I was getting asked by a lot of clinicians, especially those that work with runners, what I was doing, how to do so. So I created a program that started helping clinicians who work with runners. But my background, like I said, as a physical therapist, been running for over 20 years as well. So that's always been a big passion of mine. Also a strength coach, but yeah, and a run coach. So that's my background, my really short story. And then I would say, like, personally, what has changed, I actually went through a lot of health struggles since the last time I was probably on here. So that was like interesting with like running a business, and had its own challenges, but it really made me focus on like what's important, like my personal life and professional life. And I just really had to say no to a lot of things. And so that was a journey itself, but has also affected like some of the things that I'm doing in like a good way, like the course offerings and stuff I've created because of that. So yeah.
Well, that's really cool. And I definitely would love to hear a little bit more about that, because I think, when it comes to working on your business and growing your business, it can be like all consuming, with everything that has to get done. And like in some ways, it's good because like you do definitely have to put in the work and the energy and the dedication in order to succeed. But there's a fine balance between that, and going like a little bit overboard or starting to prioritize the business over like yourself as a person and your health and everything.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe like before like the health challenges started, how long had you been in business?
I mean, it depends on when you say. I guess we could consider just like my long COVID stuff, because that was really the main more challenges. But I guess so like 3 years, 2.5 years.
Okay.
Depending on where you're counting from and what, like basically like 3 years.
So not necessarily like super beginner business owner, but kind of like a sophomore, maybe, like in a way, not a freshman anymore, but a sophomore, in terms of running a business. And so like when things kind of like started, I guess, like tell me more about like that point in time. And it sounds like you were maybe like starting to kind of weigh like, your personal health stuff with the business, and tell me more about what that was like.
Yeah, well, I had long COVID symptoms, which were really like just kind of all consuming for a couple months there. So really it became that I like had to choose my health, right? Like I couldn't, I mean, I had the clients I had, but I didn't like market for like at least 2 months at all. Because I actually didn't know if I could even, like, I was like, I can support the clients I have, but like I didn't have the capacity to support anymore at the time. So I guess, I mean, it showed you, it's not like we don't know this, we're health professionals, but just like how important your health is, like how important keeping you the healthiest is at the forefront of everything, right? Which it wasn't any surprise. But like that was definitely made it clear. Like, and it also made me just have to trust that everything's going to work out, right? Because that's the only option you have.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, who's gonna run the business, like, if you're out
Yeah.
of commission too?
Yeah.
Um
I think there's so much behind that, right? It's like, okay, like having systems, like at that time, I felt like very lucky that I had just like, I went like 2 years until I actually knew what to do with my finances in my business. So I had like just had like a savings in my business and in my personal life and all that. So like, I felt very lucky because if I hadn't done that, I don't know what I would have done for like the few months that I wasn't marketing or doing anything. So that was also like a big, I mean, it was already a learning point, but I was like thankful I had done that part in my business as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like I feel like when you first start your business, I mean, your like whole goal is like just make money. But then
Yeah,
like once you have the money, it's like, okay, what do I do with the money? I know a lot of people out there maybe listening, but just like business owners in general, it's like one of the most popular like ways to manage money, I think, is like the profit first method.
yeah,
Is that something that you do?
yeah. That's basically what I do, and have like
Yeah.
5 accounts and whatnot.
Yeah, it's very tedious sometimes to like keep track of everything, but it's so helpful
Yeah,
because like you said, if you don't have the savings there, they can be really scary,
yeah,
to try to figure out what to do. And like I know for me, I don't think I started doing that maybe until like a year or so into it. And then it's like really common, I think, for business owners to either pay themselves nothing from the business at all or like keep everything.
yeah.
And there's like no like in
No
between.
in between. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saving
So
for taxes, or I'm not even paying myself.
yep, it's just pretending none of that matters. And so like I think like the sooner that you can set something up, whether it is like the traditional like profit first method or something inspired by that, to be able to start to build up like the reserves in your saving, it just makes the whole like life, I think, of being a business owner a little bit less stressful if you're not
Yeah.
always worrying about how am I going to pay myself? So that's huge, and I'm really glad that you had that in place and everything. I guess like what other kind of like systems and things that you did, while you were balancing like the health challenges and clients, like what other kinds of things like helped you at that time?
I mean, I don't know if there was necessarily anything in particular, like business wise. I mean, there was a lot of things like health wise. It was just I had to do a lot of like calming things for like my nervous system. It was just like all health related, like anything to calm down my nervous system because I just like couldn't tolerate a lot of things because I was having like a lot of brain fog and all that kind of stuff. As far as like systems, like I did start to like work on more systems. Like, hey, like if something goes down, like it's very easy to be like, this is the step you follow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And long term having like more people in my business. The only person I really had at the time was like my podcast editor, right? um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not like working with anyone else, but it made me see like the benefit of like, I don't know, having more people in your business and not just making it you the sole
Mm-hmm.
of your business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be really difficult to like start to delegate things, because you might
Yeah.
think like you're the only one who can like do it as good as you can. Um and like maybe that's true, but also like you'll find that your business will still function and thrive even if somebody else is able to do it like 80% as good as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like
And
everything, right? In life, you don't need to do everything to 100%. 80% is usually good in most things in life.
yeah, for sure. And I'm actually interested. I don't know if you would be open to sharing, like, what are some things that you do to calm down your nervous system?
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like that's all I had to learn. And it actually, so also, if like I help runners, like running's a big part of my life, exercise is a part of my life. So like I wasn't able to work out for 5 months. It was like literally ridiculous. Like I'm telling you, like I was literally trying to do a body weight workout. And then it was the weirdest thing. I'd have like these flares and it wasn't immediately. It'd be like the next day or a couple of hours after I would just get like super fatigued and have all the symptoms that come on with like long COVID. But it was always this like delayed thing. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
mind F, to be honest, because you're like trying to figure out, and it's like the littlest amount of exercise will flare you up. So all that to say, it was like 5 months of like me being like, I can't do anything. Like I can't exercise, which is my main stress reduction, reduction method, whatever. So it was cool to find that I could be very calm and relaxed without exercise because I literally had
Mm-hmm.
to. So I had to like learn different techniques, right? And one thing was breath work. I just got like really into breath work. I still do that to this day. I do find like it's one of the best things for me. Like there's so many different techniques, and I feel like I've learned a lot since then.
Mm-hmm.
But that one always worked best for me. I literally use this app called the Stasis app, and I put it on. It tells me to breathe in, it tells me to breathe out, and I literally sit there for like 10 minutes and do that. And I swear it like just works really well. Like even better than meditation. Like meditation's a little bit different. That's one thing. Another thing that I like to do and got into during that time was frequency music. I did learn all this. I was working with a functional med practitioner. She did have experience with long COVID herself as well. And so she like had all these methods to help me. I found that would help too. The breathing was still like better, but listen to 528 hertz is what the frequency music was. You put it in your ears, do it for like, I think she's prescribed like 20 minutes twice a day. I try to do at least like 10 minutes. That was another thing. The ideas like these are all like more, since I've like learned sense, are like more superficial than like the deep healing work that goes on, but it can start to get your nervous system to calm down to the point that you can do like some deeper healing work and stuff. So that was what, I don't know, that's what I used during that time to get my nervous system calm down. But I feel like it can be helpful still to this day. I mean, and it's also like clinicians, and like say one of the clinicians I'm working with right now should be like, I'm overwhelmed. And it's like, okay, like maybe we can use some of these techniques to see if this will help. It depends on what exactly she's dealing with. But yeah, those are a couple examples of what I would do to help with that.
I think that's super helpful. And I know that, somebody out there listening will, it'll like ring true for them, as something that maybe like they had been missing, because like, there's just, I feel like it's like a part of growing a business, as well as just like taking care of yourself, but it's a part of growing a business is that like your nervous system can get really overwhelmed. And even though like we are healthcare providers, you like know it, but you don't at the same time.
Right.
And it's something I love talking about this because like that's something that like I myself kind of like struggle with, where I feel like, just a bunch of different like stressors will happen. And like, maybe I'm also like really sore from the gym, or like a workout didn't go the way that I wanted. And, maybe I have like an interaction with somebody that didn't go the way that I hoped it would. And now all of a sudden, like, just like everything in my body is like very like tense, on high alert, and then like the next thing that happens, it could be a tiny thing, but it will be like the straw that broke the camel's back, and just, that's it. And for me, when I hit like that ceiling, then I'm like, okay, I have to go lay down. I can't do anything else.
It's gonna work at this point.
But like, of course, like the more that, I guess that even like the first thing is just like awareness is super helpful. So like if you're listening and feel like maybe that's you, where like you get super overwhelmed very easily, that's the number one thing, is just kind of sit with that. But then it sounds like there are different things that you could kind of work into like your daily or weekly routine to help like lower the alert level of your nervous system, so that at baseline it's not as high, so that when things happen, it isn't like an immediate emergency, because that's what it feels like sometimes. And I have to remind myself and the people that I work with too, like literally none of this is an emergency. Like we don't work in an emergency department. None of it's an emergency. So like, there's no reason to like super freak out about anything, but like in our body, we still feel it.
Yeah. And when you said that, I don't know, it's not really off topic, but it is, but it's like, I guess when you're like new to business ownership too, and it's like, you're saying nothing's an emergency, and you feel like if a client reaches out to you or someone else, like, I need to get back to them like right away. Right. And it's just like, I can create this overwhelm. And yes, that's like great to have like that customer service. But I think that can kind of tie into like having your system in your business, and or the boundaries you're going to like abide by in your business of like, okay, what is my response time with my clients? What is my response time that I'm going to hold myself to with like DMs, all that kind of stuff. So then it doesn't feel like an emergency too. You're like, oh yeah, like my response time is this anyways. Like I don't need to get back right now. Great if you can, and that's what you want to do. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying if that overwhelm is creating that overwhelm in your body, that like, I need to do like everything right now, because in business it can feel like that sometimes. Like that more logical approach can help as well. So you're not just like ramped up right all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I know for me, like something that I realized, which it was nothing new, but like maybe last month or the month before, I can't remember, I would check my email on my phone in the morning, like while I was having coffee. And like in a way it was kind of good, because then if like anything had changed since my previous work day, then I could, like get ready for it or whatever. It was also stressing me out. And then like I would also like check my email throughout the day, like when I was at the gym or like out of the grocery store and check my email, and like things would come up and I felt like I had to respond to them right away, but like they weren't real emergencies and I was just stressing myself out for nothing. What I ended up doing is I took like the email syncing off my phone. I just don't check it on my phone anymore. Literally none of it's an emergency.
Yeah.
Like I think like the worst thing that could maybe happen is that I go to log into my email in the morning once I like start business hours, and like somebody had canceled their appointment, asked to reschedule it or whatever. And then I don't know, like I mainly work at home besides when I see patients at the gym, but I'm also at the gym for myself. So if they cancel, it's not like a huge deal. Maybe an appointment gets canceled or something, or they ask to reschedule, and then I just do what I can, like I can't, nobody expects me to like spin on a dime and bend over backwards, to make something work for them. And if they do, it's kind of an unrealistic expectation of any service provider, so like why do I need to like put those expectations on myself? So that has really helped a lot. I also turned off the notifications for Instagram on my phone, so like I still will go like on it and look, but then I don't get any like push notifications because then I'm just like, checking it too often, and that's no good. And even sometimes like I'll put my phone on do not disturb as well, where like only, like your favorite contacts or whoever can contact you. And along with that, I actually think I heard this, maybe I started doing it, but also had it like confirmed by Layla Hormozy. Like I watched a video of her talking about like how like when she first started her business, and I think she was seeing like personal training clients, she would like respond to text messages from them like instantly all the time, which is like you said, it's fine if you want to do that, if that's what makes you feel good. I also realized I needed to stop doing that because nothing's an emergency. So like a lot of times now, like I'll wait until like my lunch break or later in the day to respond to messages, just because I'm like, I don't want to dedicate, my extra brain cell to this right now, and that has definitely helped to like calm things down, I think.
Yeah. I also like, even with like, say my packages for like specifically like my run coaching, I have different levels, and like one, I'll check in throughout the week. One is once a week. One is once a month, which is not something I actually really advertise or put out there. It's really just for some people if they're really asking for like a more bare bones thing. All that to say, it's like I restructured that to be like, okay, at this price point, like this is the amount of contact they can have with me, like, and, especially, and it's priced like appropriately. Right. And that helped too, because it's put off the pressure on me, like, oh my gosh, I gotta get back to them. And it's also, like I said, it's, the different packages are appropriate for the amount of connection they want with me. So that helped a lot as well for me to like not feel as overwhelmed too.
Yeah, and kind of like setting expectations and everything too. Yeah, well, that's good. I hope you guys who are listening are taking notes, because these are things that's taken me and Kristen 4, 5, 6 years to learn.
Yeah, I would say these are all like the kind of things that like were starting to hold up my business, right? It was just like things like I didn't have my finances in place. I wasn't good at saying no in general to anything ever. Having the boundaries in my business and what that would look like. All those things. Having the tools to like calm my nervous system down and like not be so overwhelmed over not that big of things. Like all those things I feel like have been like the big things, more than just like, hey, I need more strategy, or like, as a point where I don't need more of that stuff anymore. Kind of get some of these skills learned.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, maybe we've already kind of like answered some of it. This is just making me think of like the concept of boundaries, maybe when it comes to like being a clinician who works in a clinic versus a clinician or coach who works with people online. If you're in person at a clinic, clients can really only see you like in a finite window. Versus if you work with people online, like you can technically like talk to them all the time, and you kind of explained like the structure of your coaching programs and like limiting access there. But how else do you like maintain boundaries for yourself, being like mainly an online service provider and like not being on the internet all the time?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's the main one, like at least with my clients, right?
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of like any other examples outside of just like maintaining that with my clients, because that's like the big one.
Yeah.
I like not with my clients or just with like my social media. Like for that, sure, there, like nothing's an emergency there. Although we
Yeah.
do know, like the quicker you're gonna get back to someone, you know, say in the DMs, if they're messaging you, the more likely they will, you know, work with you, but also just like not putting that pressure on myself. So I don't personally stick to like I'm checking it at this time. I know some people that works well. That hasn't worked well for me. That just puts more
Mhm.
on myself. So usually more pressure is not good for
Yeah.
me. But I'm trying to think of like any other examples that we haven't talked about. That's the main one. I can't say I'm good at like not checking my phone, not, you know,
Mhm.
and before bedtime stuff. Like sometimes, yes, those kind of things happen. But outside of that, I would say I've had my notifications off of my phone for like forever, I think. I don't, but my text
Yeah.
messages are the only thing that are
Mhm.
notifications on my phone. So I guess that would be one thing as well.
Yeah, like you said, basically, like no social media is an emergency. If it's an emergency, they'll text you or call you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, gosh, there was some quote that I saw. I can't remember who said it. I think it was like a famous actor who was like, you know, like if it's emergency, like text or call me. Maybe it was Tom Holland. I don't know. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that. But if it's an emergency, they'll text or call me. And if you don't have my number, you don't know me well enough for there to be an emergency,
So like
you
that
know?
into perspective. Yeah.
Um, yeah, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, obviously, there could be like a crazy, you know, like once in a blue moon like situation, but we can't operate like that every day. So yeah, no, I think that's super helpful and some stuff to think about for people out there, you know, who are like getting into business for themselves, you know, and just like managing all of the different like hats that we're wearing. There's like a lot coming at us from all angles all the time. Like something else I think that I've been prioritizing more recently is like time, like sort of like alone time where I'm just like not with my phone either. So like reading a lot, or I've been crocheting a lot,
Yeah.
you know, or even just like watching TV shows. I like purposely like flip my phone over or like put it away from me, you know, for like half hour, a couple of hours at a time. That helps a lot to like bring me back to the reality of nothing's an emergency. I guess that maybe like getting into a little bit more of like your business stuff. I think it's been a little while since I have talked to other business owners about like specifically working online. You know, like we had the huge like telehealth boom and everything. And you know, now I think thankfully like more of the world is like open to telehealth, which of course like gives everybody more opportunities for things, which is great. But I guess can you tell us a little bit more about like your experience going from like working with people in person to working online and what that was like for you?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, first to start off, like my whole reason for going online was like a personal want, right? Like I wanted to be online, I wanted to live wherever. And I knew even though when I started my business, like I was living in a city I knew I was moving from, which is kind of crazy thinking back to now. But I started in person there knowing I was leaving. But I ultimately knew I wanted to be online because I wanted that freedom, right? So I guess I could treat runners in person. I still do. Like I go to running clubs and people will ask me and I'll treat them in person. I don't talk about it a ton, but I do still treat them in person.
Mhm.
But as far as so A, yes, there's like a want on my own to be online. But B, I feel for runners, it's been so nice because I've been able to meet people from wherever who might not have like a running physical therapist where they're at. And
Mhm.
really when it comes to especially with runners and really I mean it depends on your mindset and your methodology of like PT and what you like to focus on. But for a lot of runners, like truly, like yes, manual is great and it helps speed up along the process. But they just really need like a solid training plan, a solid strength plan, and someone to help guide that back to running and or throughout running to help them from getting injured over and over, right? Because that's a chronic or that's a common thing with injuries. They'll have chronic injuries and they're just on like this roller coaster. So for me, it serves multiple aspects. It's personally I want to be online, but B, this is what they truly need. And it's also like what I enjoy doing with runners. But even I guess I know I'm going a lot of directions, but I'm just like
Yeah.
sharing,
Give it
but
to us, Kristen.
yeah, but like when I started my business, I would just get so frustrated working in the clinic with runners because it was just like they don't like need to just come in. We're being a band-aid for them. You know, they
Yeah.
need how to train correctly, strength train. And yes, that could be done in person. And yes, some people might prefer to come in person, but this can be done online. This can be done in conjunction with therapy. I've had clients that I'll do this with, help them get back to running, but maybe they do go in still to therapy where they're at. Maybe they don't. Maybe they come to me. But just, I don't know. It's definitely proved that we don't need to do hands-on necessarily with them. But if that's what you do, like I know like there's a lot of cash-based, clinicians listening to this, like that's great. We know that manual still helps. And I'm not like a therapist that's like, you don't need to do that. But it's just been great to reach people from wherever to be able to do that. And I don't know. I feel like also I'm just in my zone of genius doing that too. So
yeah. For people who don't know what that is, zone of genius, can you tell us what that is, Kristen?
I'd say coaching in general. Really, it's just coaching because I feel like that's what I do for everything, right? I coach runners, I coach clinicians. I feel like coaching is my zone of genius. But then within the rehab world, I feel like I enjoy writing running plans. I enjoy writing strength plans. Like that's the part of rehab that I really enjoy doing with people. Like, yeah, manual's great. I do it, but that's what I enjoy doing. And yeah. And then on the clinician side as well, I love the coaching aspect of coaching other clinicians. So
kind of like finding something that, like you're good at, you also genuinely enjoy, and, like you can get paid for.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Which is the dream, and here we are telling you that you can also do this. And I guess maybe like another question, I'm sure we talked about this a little bit on our last great episode that we did. What has been your biggest challenge, Kristen, running, like starting, growing, running a business?
I would say, gosh, I've just thought of like a million things. Honestly, I'm just going to go with like not being scared to do things like my own way, I guess. Like I technically have two businesses, right? You do as well, right? You do multiple things like me. And I feel like I've been told multiple times where it's like, you should really just like focus on one thing, right? And I know whenever I've tried to do that, like I don't enjoy it, right? If I don't enjoy it, it's just not going to happen. But also like not putting a bunch of like shoulds on me. Like I need to do this, and like really growing my business how I want to grow it. I would say that's been a challenge. And honestly, like I had a million things come to mind when you asked me that question. So I was just like, what can I actually share on? But I feel like at the end of the day, like from in the years I've been in business, the more I really focus on what like I feel like I really need to do versus like what I should do. Like, if that makes sense, has been like a learning lesson for myself too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Like we always hear the thing of like focus on one thing at a time, and you'll be able to grow a lot quicker. And I think like I mean, like I've definitely gone through the same thing because of like, treating patients, coaching physical therapists and other clinicians, and then also doing marketing for practices. That's like a lot, and so like there's, pros and cons to it. But I think one of the biggest pros that I'm sure you and I can agree on is that like allowing yourself to follow your interests and your passions, it just makes everything a lot more enjoyable. A part of starting and doing your own business, I think like a key value for a lot of us is freedom. And that like creative freedom to try different things, I think is important, so even though technically focusing on one thing at a time might allow you to grow faster, if it's important to you to explore things, it's not wrong.
I agree. And I think, I don't know, like the longer you're, I don't know, in field, or I think of like when I was younger and I was always just like, what should I do? I don't know what I should do. I was like always looking to like a mentor or something to like tell me what to do. Right. And like, really, there's no one right way. Like, so even like I do this today too, for anyone that's like newer to business and it's like, oh, well, this person on social media or this coach is saying this and this person's saying this. And it's like, can be overwhelming. And it's just like with anything in life, like all of it works. You just need to pick what works for you and like start doing it.
Yeah. And that is definitely something that could be calming for your nervous system to realize that like you could try any and all of it, if you want. Realize that's going to take time, but if you want to try it, go for it. Everybody's going to have an opinion about everything. Just go with your own opinion, for your own business. As we're kind of coming to the end of today's episode, I wanted to, ask you maybe to tell us a little bit more in detail about like the program that you have to offer, with the run coaching that you do. maybe like who that's for. And then with the clinician coaching that you do, what does it look like? And who's that for?
Yep. So my run coaching, I do run coaching and strength coaching. I do strength coaching. Who that's for one, that's usually the minimum I'll do is 6 months. So 6 months for all my programs actually, but 6 months, I really want to invest in you and invest in your running. And you just really can't make that many gains in like 3 or 4 months, right? I'm a big, for anyone clinician like listening, I really encourage doing the same if you're working with runners. But 6 months, and then after that, it's month by month. But people that I work with are either chronically injured, they're currently injured, want to get back to running, or they're like chronic overdoer. Like I got to hold you back, hold the reins back, teach you how to train properly. And or people that just really want to add in strength to their running to get stronger. They've been running a while, but they haven't added that strength component in, tend to be the people I work with. I just actually did a post yesterday on like who I work with most. I'd say the last like category is like someone that's like an overthinker, right? They're like overthinking so everything. Someone's like, here's the plan, you're good, let's go. Let's do this. But those are the people I work with on the running side. On the clinician side, my main program is From Clinician to Coach CEO. It's a 6-month program that takes someone from the very beginning to getting started with everything from writing running programs, which is actually where my program started. It started just as teaching you how to write running programs, to knowing the marketing, the sales you need for it, to knowing now I've added other components, which I just talked about on this podcast, which has been like the finances to get started, get your LLC started, all that stuff, which I didn't used to include, as well as the nervous system regulation. I have added a course on that, which has been exciting because I just feel like clients that are similar to me and they're like, I'm overwhelmed. Like actually that has been with my clients in the current cohort. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. To really encompass that whole experience of starting your business. And like I said, it's 6 months. It used to be 4 months, and it's just been really good to be at 6 months. So that's who it's for. It's mainly for clinicians who are looking to work with runners, but I have worked with clinicians who are like, one right now is working with weightlifters online. But it is very specific to online business. I have in the past had people who have their in-person business, but will also want to add that. Very specific to like online and being able to do run coaching. So
that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Helping all the people.
Yeah. It's been fun. And I like, anyways, I see the future of like where it's going to. So yeah.
That's exciting. That's really cool. I think like once you kind of get past your sophomore year, then it kind of feels more real, I suppose.
Juniors or seniors? I mean, I think I might be a junior still. I don't know where we at.
I'm trying to figure. I feel like I'm like going into my junior year, maybe. Like I know what's going on, but also there's like still a ton of stuff that I don't know, which is crazy. Like it's never ending, but that's okay. That's okay. We're moving from year to year, and it's a good thing. So I guess like if anybody is interested in, like learning more from you, seeing more of your stuff, joining your program, how can they find you?
Yeah. So best places to find me is on Instagram. Kristen_run your life is my running account. I have split the accounts now. My business account is Kristen_run your biz. Honestly, I don't care. You can reach out at either, whichever feels most comfortable. Also, I am on Facebook, Kristen Schulz. My name will be in the show notes. It's also on the screen if you're looking. But just on Facebook, if that's your, if you prefer Facebook. But those are honestly the best places. Like I can give you my email, others things, but like I prefer Facebook or Instagram. It's best for communication for me.
Cool. Awesome. That sounds good. Thank you.
Run Your Life podcast. I guess I could promote that.
Oh yeah. Plug it, Kristen. Plug it.
Morgan will be coming on. I think I was planning out the episodes. I think it's going to be March that it's released. I was like going through the month, so it won't be till March, but we'll be coming out. But I think it's like this third week in March, the Wednesday.
Cool.
So it will be released on the Run Your Life podcast. So
that's awesome. Your podcast episode might come out then as well.
Oh, perfect.
I'm gonna say like March, April or something, and then we'll just like swap, collab, like post about it too.
Yes. Perfect.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Kristen.
Yes, thank you for having me. This has been fun. It's been fun to chat twice this week.
I know. Just talking about all the things. Yeah, it's always a blast, talking all things business and life. All right, great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here. whether you're listening, watching, whatever, reading the blog post, even, we also transcribe these. Thank you for joining us. And I will see you on the next one.